and I've clicked it and we're recording.
Cool.
Do we need to have like a moment of silence for the absence of Tom Feeks? Just take a moment.
I mean, he's not dead.
Well, no, but let's say, we're an emotional team. We don't leave a man behind.
We absolutely leave a man behind.
Yeah. We're not the Marines. Come on.
I've had genuine conversations.
I'm thinking of you, Feeksy. I'm thinking they're not. They don't give a shit.
I've had genuine conversations when I've been with people and they've been like behaving or acting in a way where I've just said, I want to be really clear before anything happens now. If you do something that gets you in a fight, I do not have your back.
Jeez, come.
That's my standpoint.
Yeah. There you go. New dice, please. We don't have your back.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I think, someone just needs a little slap, and then you can go in and go, all right, you've got your slap in, but you deserve that. Let's go.
Oh, this is getting a bit heated, isn't it, guys? Sorry off of that. There you go, ladies.
I get the feeling that Mr. Feeks and Mr. Coe may have history on this part.
I don't think I've ever not had Feeks' back. I've never needed to, though. Feeks is a very composed individual.
Right. Oh, on that bombshell.
Shall we go?
We should run the video.
Yeah.
So roll the video. How long have you been doing this for?
Try saying new.
Run VT. Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Dice Please, the bite-sized Blood Bowl podcast brought to you by the people at Blood Bowl Live. My name is Chris. Joining me this week, Mr. Scott Bryant. Scott, what's your favourite type of pasta?
Ravioli.
Very nice. Very nice. And joining us, as always, Mr. Tom Hovell. Tom, favourite pasta?
Tagliatelle.
Another good shout. I'm going to go linguine. I'm liking linguine at the minute. Not quite tagliatelle, but not, spaghetti. It's a nice middle ground. How civilized of us all. No arguments there. Clearly all just pasta fans.
No one said hoops.
No one said tin hoops. Really good. No spaghetti this week. No, we're not talking about spaghetti. Some weeks we come up with interesting things, different out of the box things to talk about, and throw the agenda out and come up with something completely random. Some weeks we are entirely predictable, and seeing as they have just announced where the NAF World Cup's going to be, how could I not immediate episode afterwards be talking about the NAF World Cup? The votes are in, all the bids have been reviewed, and Malta is the decision. I personally am very happy because it feels like one of the more affordable options for myself. Before we dive into Malta, a quick kind of congratulations and well done on all the effort put in by all of the other bids, because it's a hell of a lot of effort that you have to go through and logistics, even just to get a bid together to be considered. So, absolute credit to all of the people who put bids in and unfortunately weren't chosen. Maybe another year for them, but Malta is the destination of choice. So we're going to have a little bit of a look at what the bid looked like, what sorts of things are covered in there, have a look at what the rule set might be as well, and see what we think Malta is going to be like. Now, before we jump in, gents, I have a small surprise. I thought it would be, I'm genuinely a little bit nervous. I thought it would be quite a good idea, because one of the first things I'm sure we've all done is we've told our other halves that Malta is the destination, and we've started discussions and negotiations about spending some of the allocated holiday time playing 3 days of Blood Bowl in Malta. I thought it would be good to immediately, before we dive into the Blood Bowl, is just have something that people can play to their other halves as to why Malta is a great place to go and a great place to spend time. If you're with someone who is then not with you because they're playing Blood Bowl. And I thought that wouldn't sound great from us. So my wife's going to do this bit for us. Emily, can you... there's a headphone for you.
Oh, I need that.
Well, yeah, because otherwise you won't be able to hear them, will you?
Okay.
There we are. You're right.
I can just talk without people hearing me. It's
Well, no, people do need to hear you. If you just lean this way, there we are. Hello. So,
No.
there we are. Malta.
Yeah.
So what will you? Why is Malta a good place for you to be? Well, I'm playing Bloodbowl for 3 days.
I mean, I think my first point would be present it as a holiday first with the Blood Bowl second. If you lead with the Blood Bowl and the holiday second, not going to go so well.
Right. Okay. Tip number one.
So I've been to Malta before with my mum. We've had a very, very nice time. I've had a couple of visits. I think it'll be really nice weather in September time. So it'll still be very warm because Malta is really, really hot. So I think that's a good time of year to go. So it'll still be really good weather for both sightseeing, but I think also for beach time if people want to do that. So there's kind of a mixture of both kind of town and city things that you can do, but also more outdoorsy things as well, and definitely some beaches as well, more in kind of like the north of the island probably. So which kind of bits would you like me to talk about?
Any questions, gentlemen?
What about young uns?
So I went back over the travel guide the other day. So you've got, I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think it's called like World of Popeyes, one of their really big things, which sounds a bit weird, but apparently it's amazing. And there's also a really, really amazing aquarium as well. And then I think you've got a lot of kind of areas that are quite nice for beaches as well, but ones that have got quite a few facilities and things like that as well. They do quite a lot of boat tours and things because you can go up to the islands that are north of Malta called Gozo and Camino as well for like a boat tour where you can get off and you can swim and you can go around, have refreshments and that sort of thing as well. So there's quite a few things like that as well, which I think would be quite popular.
So can Tom get half price fare on these boats?
I don't understand the question.
Okay.
He's assuming that I am short.
Emily, thank you very much for your
don't have anything
opinions on.
else.
What is there anything else you want to add?
It's very easy to get around. There's lots of really good buses that are very reliable and they're all on Google Maps and they're very easy to know where you're going and to travel around. I think people definitely could drive if they needed to, but I don't really think people will need to unless they're really wanting to go into somewhere that's very, very remote. There's also lovely historical sites, nice little towns and places as well. Valletta is the capital, which is the main kind of place where a lot of people may well stay. Why are you smirking at me?
No, it's just you've gone full travel agent, which I wasn't expecting, but I'm very impressed by.
You asked me to come and talk about visiting somewhere.
No,
so...
I know, but I just wasn't. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll stop now because apparently that's enough information.
One last question then, Emily. On behalf of all of the other Blood Bowl coaches who are hoping to attend, any potential attendee playing Blood Bowl, should they be prepared to invest heavily in the amount of spending money they need to give to their other partners to make sure they have a quality time as well?
I guess it will partly depend on how much persuasion you have to do for said family members to go. If they need a lot of persuasion, they may need a hefty daily allowance. But in general, in terms of how expensive it is there, I don't remember it being massively expensive. The public transport was quite reasonable. I think there's a huge range of places. So if you want to stay and eat and drink at top of the range places, there are plenty of options like that are lovely and very luxurious, but there's lots of more affordable options as well. So I think you've got a bit of everywhere on the range.
And there's lots of opportunities then for partners to possibly indulge themselves with fine quality gifts, food, wine, experiences.
I mean, if it's at your expense, I think they will love it.
Thank you very much for your travel guide.
Thank you, Emily. Beautiful.
You can go now.
Thank you.
I thought it was good to get a perspective that wasn't us for what to do in Malta, if you know, because that's going to be a big consideration for a lot of people. So thank you very much to Emily for that.
Equally, a side note, while I was going ahead, I also asked ChatGPT.
And how does AI compare to my wife, Tom?
So basically, it says taking your partner to Malta when you want to play Bloodbowl is all about balance. Your love for the game with a great experience for you both. Here's how you can sell the trip and keep everyone happy, right? Telling your partner you're flying to Malta just for a tournament might not go down well, but saying, hey, let's take a holiday to this beautiful island and I'll just pay a little bit of Blood Bowl while we're there, sounds way more appealing.
I think Emily phrased it better than ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly. I think humans have still got the upper hand on that one.
But I think what it does, though, it reaches out to our technophobic and techno-loving audience members as well, and offers them the best of both worlds, really. There, Chris.
Exactly.
You know, so I think there's some wonderful tips there to be had by all as well.
So let's have a look at the actual bid then. That's Malta. Oh, sorry, go on, Scott.
I was just one question to both of you. Dallas, New Zealand, and I can't remember the fourth place in terms of the bid process.
Dijon.
But what? Oh, Dijon. Good old mustard. Is there anywhere? It's very European centric in terms of the location. For European places, it's great. Do you think that NAF should possibly look at outside Europe for the next Blood Bowl, especially if we want to talk about a complete global community, a global environment? I appreciate costs are expensive, and majority of coaches probably are in Europe, but do you think it should go outside Europe? And if you could, where would you put the next Blood Bowl? So where would be Blood Bowl 31?
You want to go? I think
I would go, Tom.
Yeah, I'd possibly say that probably the next largest area would be the North America and Canada. You know, the US and Canada area would most possibly be where the majority of other players are, maybe doing a disservice. If you are elsewhere in the world and you want to let us know. But yeah, I think somewhere in the States is a high possibility. I know that obviously Austin tried for this one and unfortunately didn't get it, but I could definitely see it being played there and a larger venue as well.
It's tough because it's a World Cup. It's in Europe again, obviously, and the majority of the voting, a lot of the people with the votes were more Europe. There's a lot more play in Europe, I think, generally. So it is tough in that respect. I think at some point it does need to go outside of Europe. The time needs to be right for it to go somewhere else, and it needs to be the right place. So yeah, I would hope to see 2031 somewhere outside. But going through Malta's bid, since we found out, I've been going through the bid pack that Malta put out, and they're working with people who are used to doing these kind of events. When you look at the bid pack, they've really focused on how great a place Malta is in general to go to. They've really put a lot of effort here into making it sound like somewhere that is, this is probably as good of, if not better than a lot of general tourist information things that you might find about some places. And it just happens to tell you about a Blood Bowl tournament that's happening in the second half of the document. So I think they've put a lot of effort into making it appealing, knowing that so many people who play will have partners or families or whatever who need to be taken into consideration. Now, I haven't gone through with a fine-tooth comb the other bids, if I'm honest with you. So, I can't tell you that they haven't done the same due diligence. I was surprised by how much of a impressive tourist pack this felt like as I was reading through it, and all of the things that it tells you about that you can do there as a wider thing. Let's keep the focus on Malta then. So we've gone over kind of what Malta has to offer. We've gone over that. So looking at then what they're looking to put on. To start with, opening ceremony, which, looking at the kind of breakdown, sounded like an opening ceremony that could be a decent sized event with live music and all of this sorts of stuff. I know I didn't go to the last World Cup and haven't been to any other ones, but probably because my journey in Blood Bowl has been relatively recent. But this feels great. This feels like a proper big thing, right?
Yeah, dress code casual chic. So make sure you're being chic as well as casual. but yeah, it's very interesting because it's the first time I've ever actually looked at a Blood Bowl World Cup in any detail. I know they happened. I don't know anything about them, so it's interesting going through the document and seeing this. And like you say, it's a proper, professional outfit by the looks of things, with these opening ceremonies, with lots of live music and bands and drinks and beautiful firework and a firework show as well. That's really is quite spectacular by the sounds of things.
I think I have to say, reading the pack, reading all of the information, I think it is exceptionally well done. It's put together really nicely. It appeals to, that complete package, not just the person and the coach or the coaches going for the focus on the 3-day event Blood Bowl, but it's all the, as you said, Chris, turning it now into almost like an esports event for the actual area, but thinking about the family as well, and possibly other people who are going to come along for support as well, and what else Malta has to offer, rather than just flight, hotel, venue, hotel, flight. So I think it really, for me as well, encapsulate everything we talk about Blood Bowl on NDP, the community. And it's really about that community and bringing everything in together. So yeah, very, very looking forward to it. And it's obviously 2,500 to 2,500 competitors. And assuming, and we'll get onto this, that the package in terms of setting it up as individuals and teams is going to be similar to Alicante in 2023. So there's lots of opportunities to play, to develop as coaches, and to get engaged with the wider skill set and the wider team and the community. Oh, it's going to be a thing of beauty.
The thing that interests me, and you guys will probably know, and I don't know, because I've never played a multi-day event. So, that there's 3 days where you're playing 3 games every day. Now, your experience in those, good, bad, indifferent? What's your experience with them?
Never done one before. The only one who has is Chris.
So yeah, I did the Welsh Championships last year, and it being the 2-day event, there were kind of a number. So that wasn't a team event, but there were a number of things about it that made the 2 days that made it a really nice and really interesting experience. First of all, the fact that I was there in quite a big group, which you would be here because you're going in a team, and it meant that if your first day was terrible, which 3 of us had 3 losses from 3 on day 1, you had people around to kind of perk you up. You're also, because you're playing more games, you've got time to recover. If you do have a bad start and move your way around like that. And it is tiring. Like by the end of the 3rd day, you've played 3 solid days of Blood Bowl plus whatever socializing you're doing in the evening and anything else that you're doing. It is tiring. Like a single day tournament can be very tiring when you're playing three games in a row. Make that 6 or 9 games, and it can be exhausting. But I think what is going to be particularly great about, I think, this is you're going to be somewhere beautiful while you're having good or bad or mixed results or whatever you're having. You're going to be in your teams. You're going to have that kind of camaraderie around you as well. And I think that everyone will get everyone sort of through it. And it's how many other hobbies, especially, I think, Scott, you touched on something where you talked about it kind of almost being like an kind of esports type feel, and the people that they've partnered up with specialize in kind of those big esports events. And I think it's really going to feel like, I think, you're part of something. And there aren't many hobbies, especially in this kind of, I don't know how many hobbies there are in this kind of group, that appeal to the sorts of people that maybe these hobbies appeal to, where maybe you feel where you get that kind of grand feeling, and they've really sold it with the kind of esports link as feeling like a grand, impressive event that we'll all be part of.
Yeah, I know that it is. Let's be open and honest as well. It's not cheap. It is relatively expensive versus other international accommodation to flights, etc. You could argue, well, it's not too expensive. It's still expensive for the average person, so it's going to be £180 for the ticket, and you do get a free mat in the merch bundle. So kudos to that. That's a bit of a good one. There is food supplied. Obviously, there's going to be entertainment. So by the time you add 180, say 120 for your flight. Plus as well accommodation, which is depending on whether you're sharing or how it's going, and whether you're 5-star, like Mr. Hovell is going to be, or with his own private jet, flying him out, Silver Spoon, or having the entourage as he does, or if you're taking the lovely Mrs. Coe out, for example, even for several days of that's not going to be cheap. Plus, of course, the bribes. Sorry, I meant allocated spending money for your other partner. It's not going to be cheap, but I think if it's something people are aware of now to start saving for it, I think it is going to be accessible for quite a number of people.
I think on the cost as well, because they on the original kind of info that they've got here, which is something that I would be interested in getting some clarification on. They've said sort of 2,500 attendees would be €150 a ticket, 2,000 attendees would be €180 a ticket.
Yeah.
So exactly how they're going to kind of do that and confirm that will be interesting to see, because at 150 a ticket, if you then are saying to yourself if you just take it at the 3 full games of Blood Bowl, you're talking £50 for a day, including food, which is quite a lot. Even for a standard tournament, that's a lot of money. But when you kind of look at the venue, you look at the food included, you take into account things like the opening and closing ceremonies and all the other things, you're almost paying for sort of 4 or 5 days worth of stuff, which then would bring it down to sort of £30 if you call it a 5-day thing, even though you're only playing Blood Bowl for 3. But yeah, there will be the additional cost of everything else that with staying and going abroad is a big thing. Should we then? I mean, I think another little thing as well, the artwork kind of the knights and all of that they're using in all of their stuff, I think looks incredible. I absolutely love it. I think it's genuinely really, really nice. Do we want to now focus on what we think the rule set might be? Do we want to have a little look at the Alicante rule set and see what any changes we think would need to be made to it?
I think it'd be useful to our first impressions of it. Yep.
Yeah.
So, Tom, you've got the rule set up.
Yep. So just to confirm, this is the Alicante 2023 rule set. So the general overview of the rule set is the tournament was a restricted format, meaning no SPP are gained and injuries or casualties do not carry between games. You are, as you have mentioned already, it's a team event. So squads consist of 6 members with an optional 7th reserve. It was 1,015,000 GBP.
1150, yeah, 1150.
Yeah, 1150. Sorry. Of roster creation, including re-rolls, assistant coaches, cheerleaders, and apothecaries. Each team must have at least 11 players before adding a star player. I'll put my hand up and say that's probably one rule that's going to stay. That's a classic one. Star players cannot be given any additional skills and cannot be repeated within the same squad. So that's an interesting one. So you can't have 2 skitters in your squad.
I think that's good. Well, because on the teams, it's even down to the level of you can't repeat any race more than once within your team. So that's really interesting. Sort of how you then build a team taking into account the star players, because Skitter is quite affordable for the star player that he is, and we are now seeing taken an awful lot of tournaments.
Exactly.
So kind of
And I wouldn't be surprised. Sorry, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I would not be surprised if Skitter ends up being a megastar before Bolter.
because the final bit on the general overview was certain star players cost skill slots to balance their effectiveness. So there was a number of those. So the tier teams and skill allocation. So obviously tier 1 in 2023 was tier 1 was Chaos Dwarves, Dark Elves, Dwarves, Humans, Lizardsmen, Orcs, Undead, Wood Elves. And their options were 6 primary skills, or 4 primary skills and 1 secondary skill, or 3 primary skills and 1 star player. Tier 2 was Amazons, Elven Union, High Elves, Necromantic Horror, Norse, Skaven, Slan, Underworld Denizens. Options were 7 primary skills, or 5 primary skills and 1 secondary skill, or 4 primary skills and 1 star player.
So I immediately like within this kind of tiering that there has been some recognition to some of those tier 2 team. Like I really like when people expand the tiering. I know that for like Euro Bowl, there was lots of kind of weirdness around. There was a bit of kind of weirdness around how many tiers. I think the amount of tiers that they've gone for here feels sensible. And when you're kind of reading the teams out that are in each one, the recognition that like Necromantic Horror and Elven Union are more than a middle tier, but not quite a tier 1. The recognition that like maybe like Amazon and Norse, drop them just down. I like that. Putting Skaven in there feels wild to me that they are in this second tier of this.
Yeah,
because there's 3 more tiers, so there's actually 5 tiers in this in this tournament pack. So tier 3 is Black Orcs, Chaos Chosen, Imperial Nobility, Khorne, Nurgle, Tomb Kings. Options are 7 primaries, 1 secondary, 5 primaries, 2 secondaries, 5 primaries, 1 star player. And then tier 4 was Chaos Renegades, Old World Alliance, Vampires, with options 8 primary, 1 secondary, 6 primary, 2 secondary, 6 primary, 1 star player.
So something worth noting there immediately, because I just had to look it up. The new Vampire rule set was not released at the point
Correct.
it came out.
Plus, the other things, I'm sorry to jump on as well, no chorfs on here.
No, they were tier 1.
They're tier 1.
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh, Chaos Dwarf.
Yep.
Hello. But if they're going to be the old chorfs, and of course, if Elven Union and even if Tomb Kings do get released, so that'll be as no longer league teams of legend, but if they get released into the meta.
Yeah. High Elves and Tomb Kings want to watch. Vampires will surely move up. I can see Chaos Chosen moving down, because in more and more rule sets that I'm seeing where they mix the tiers up, Chaos Chosen get pushed further and further down the list.
Which is interesting, because in this setup, I would have thought that Imperial Nobility would have been pushed down rather than Chaos Chosen.
Well,
yeah.
But Imperial Nobility seems to be doing a bit of a resurgent, especially being very successful recently on Bloodbowl 3 as well.
And the final tier is tier 5, which is the stunty teams. So Halflings, Goblins, Ogres, Snotlings. Options are 8 primary, 2 secondary, 6 primary, 3 secondary, 6 primary, 1 star player, 4 primary, 2 star players. And the allowed inducements some of the inducements are Halfling Master Chef, Budweiser Kegs, bribes, but only for bribery and corruption teams. Pocketpies, Riotous Rookies, and Morgue Assistant are allowed. No death zone inducements except star players.
Yeah, so no mascot coming in there.
Yeah.
And interesting, actually, I think it's interesting that no bribes allowed if your team has 1 or more player with the sneaky git trait. So I think that's an interesting one for. I think that's interesting with the kind of goblin builds you may then see. I think, and if you bring in star players with sneaky git, things like that, I think is interesting. Another thing to ask both of you, because I I feel like there's a few people who would question this. Do you think that gnomes would slot into tier 5 in this, or do you think gnomes would actually possibly slot into tier 4? Because I've seen more and more rule sets that move gnomes higher than the bottom tiering, and they don't just have a single stunty tiering. And some of them, and it is normally sometimes ogres, but gnomes that end up taking the step up. Would you put gnomes in tier 4 here, or do you think that's too much of a nerf considering the star player limit?
I think at the moment they're heading towards tier 4. I'd expect by the time we get to 27, they would be tier 4. And the reason I say that, Chris, is there's another 2 star players released in the Almanac as well in the last few months who are applicable for gnomes. So you've got Maple Leaf, the old tree, with tentacles and the 2 square block per match, or per half rather. And then, of course, you've also got within there another stabby player in terms of Glimmershard. Can't remember the rest of the name. Apologies. So I think there are gnomes, and people are working out the good combination. There was they won a tournament recently playing guard. So having the 3 trees and a couple of guard players as well. So it really starts getting people thinking. So I wouldn't be surprised if gnomes are tier 4. Tom, do you think tier 4, or do you think still tier 5?
I think you're right. I think it would be a tier 4, because I'm just working out, and I'm just seeing if you could effectively have 4 trees on the pitch with your 2 standard tree men, but also have maple and deep root in the same one.
You could only do that if they were tier 5 access to
tier 5, yeah. And that's what I mean. So that's where I say that you're likely to find it where it would only be a tier 5. They'd move it up to prevent it, because you can.
With halflings, you'd be able to.
Yeah.
So interesting. So yeah, some interesting.
You can actually have it. You have a 13. As you need to have, you have a 13 line up with deep root and maple, with 2 tree men, all linemen, and 2 foxes, and you still have 40k left.
So just before we talk about any other team combinations, what is your take, guys? Your initial reaction to, should star players or even mega stars be allowed in this tournament? We spoke last week, obviously, Andy Davo, one of his hot takes was about having tierings within tournaments and whether you should have star players. We talked about the Griff Morg combos or the Morg Hackflem combos that are prevalent with Snotlings. What's your thoughts, guys, initially? Would you prefer a tournament with or without?
I mean, I'm looking at some of the kind of combos that you can have. The additional cost to some of these superstars with regards to the extra skill points that you've got to pay to get them if they're a megastar. Like you look at the tier 5s, you take someone's like Snotling, for example. If you build a Snotling team and you do take Hackflem and Morg, well, actually, you can't take Hackflem and Morg. You don't have enough skill points to do it. You could take you could take Griff. I don't. The way that they've done the additional skill cost for the stars is going to limit some of those. So I think that they will have limited it in such a way that it hopefully won't be too much of a hindrance if you do get mega stars and you do allow them, because I think it's actually I do think it's important to recognize that there's a skill with playing Blood Bowl with the stock team that you've got, but there is a skill to incorporating and using star players in a particular way. I feel like Gut says the way that the rule set is balanced, or this rule set looks balanced, means that you won't find too many people abusing the system with the kind of Hackflem Morb setups, because they've actually prevented that in their own way. So I would be happy to have them there. And I think it's the World Cup. I think you've got to allow people to play the way that they would play in other tournaments. And as it stands, that way is taking some of these mad star player combos. So
Yeah.
I think it would be unfair. I think you would probably have to, call time on the 2027 World Cup, implement these new NAF rules with tournament tierings, and then decide where your World Cup sits after it. I think we're too late in a cycle to kind of force people into that route.
Agree.
Do you think then? Sorry, Tom. One other quick question for both of you. Do you think then, when you look at the inclusion of said star players and megastars, do you think that will, by the time you get to the end of the tournament and you get to like the championship playoffs and you really get the cream of the crop in terms of the players, do you think then those star players will make a realistic difference, or will it purely at that point be down to the individual coaches, their skill set?
Probably more likely a combination of the both, really. Coming at it from my perspective, as I say, I've never played a multi-day event like this, so it's one of those things that this would be a real intense 3 days. So you really need to kind of get yourself in the right mindset, play a load of games before, between now and then. And also, I think really go in the right mindset, as you say. There's going to be people there who have played before in these bigger tournaments. They know everything, and that's half the battle. If you're going in fresh and new, like all three of us, hypothetically speaking, it's going to be quite daunting to enter into something like that. So from my perspective, I would actually be looking at it from a team perspective. What team do I enjoy playing? Because I would like to be against people who are likely to wipe the floor with me in 5 minutes, and just have a team and focus on solely just having star players because you want to play a particular style. It's good. It would be a long 3 days.
I think that's a really important take, actually, because I think we have never pushed ourselves as the podcast for the person who is already good and wants to be world class at Blood Bowl. Let's be honest, if you're listening to us right now because you think we're going to give you that edge over someone else, it's not what we're here for. I'm sorry, it's not what we're going to do. And I think, there will be people who will start now or who've already started thinking about their World Cup team, doing all this. People who are going to have to qualify and all of this sorts of stuff. There's loads of things like that which is going to start happening, and it's possibly already started to happen, and that's fine. But you've made a really good point there, Tom, that you're going to be sat down in a room, probably with 5 of your mates, playing a game that is clearly an important hobby to you. Otherwise, you're not going to be spending this money going to do it. And I think there does need to be a balance between go wanting to win. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to turn up wanting to win as many of those games as possible. If we turn up with a new Dice Please team, I want us to do as well as we can, and I want us to really push ourselves. But at the same time, I want us all to sit there and have an amazing fun 3 days of playing. And I'm not going to bring a team that, if there was a team that I thought I can win every game with this team, but they're boring as hell, I'm not gonna bring it. Sorry, I'm not. I bring a team. Don't get me wrong, no team like that exists for me. But
sorry, Chris.
Take a team that you're going to enjoy, because you're going to be doing it a lot for 3 days,
Tom,
and it needs to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
What team will Chris take?
Lizards.
Absolutely.
He'll be taking the Bitey Ducks. We know it's a gimme.
Bitey Ducks.
I will take the Bitey Ducks. It will be their their chance on the stage. It's a shame that the Ducks jersey isn't out. It's the Iceborough jersey. But yeah, and I will, because I enjoyed them. I love
it because you've got enough pressure on yourself actually playing in this, the World Cup. You're playing from 9:30 till 7 o'clock at night every day for 3 days. And as you say, you're in a team, but do you all sit together? Probably not.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be.
No, I think you do. I think.
Oh, you do.
You sit in a row.
Oh, nice. Okay, well that's even better. So you can share the misery together if you pick the wrong team.
So
I
just
mean-
conscious of this is going to be a topic we are going to come back to in more and more depth. So, but on behalf of NDP, should we be taking auditions or even opening up the possibility of being a member of the NDP to maybe the audience out there, if people do want to put an application in and state the reason why they think they'd be an asset to the NDP team?
Do you know what? I think at this point, at this stage, how far away we are from it, I think it's obvious to anybody who listens to us that there's not 6 of us. So you know, if someone wants to be on our team, hey, make yourself known. That would be great. We'll see how many people would like to be on Team NDP. But you know what? We're in a very what I think is probably quite unique situation. Within our Blood Bowl community, I think we are probably going to have 3 or 4 teams from just within a small postcode radius. Like I think there's going to be a lot of teams, a lot of people like who want to go, and I think we could end up taking a league's worth of people from Ipswich and Woodbridge and kind of the where if you then include the guys up at Alpha, the wide area we've got, like there's such a big kind of Suffolk community of Blood Bowlers. I think we're going to have so many people wanting to go, and I'll be so thrilled with whoever we have on our team. I think it's going to be great fun.
So look out for the Rocky style montage for the New Dice Please team as they prepare to get ready.
So I was going to suggest maybe we do some sort of X Factor audition.
Can't be dealing with that. Before we kind of move on and we end this week, kind of one last comment then on looking at the bid pack. Now we know that it's Malta. Are we? I'm so excited. I know, Emily's said she's been before. It's somewhere that I've always wanted to go, and I genuinely feel like it will be an absolutely lovely place and a lovely atmosphere. Whether we wanted other bids or not, whether this is the bid that we wanted or not, are we pleased and are we excited?
Yes, and yes for me.
Yeah, and I love the fact that if you can't make it, they're going to be streaming it live as well, so it'll be fully immersive as well. So that's going to be absolutely fantastic. The setup looks amazing. To see all this and get an understanding of how different people play around the world would be brilliant to see.
Well, hey, if you are excited that it's Malta, if you're gutted that it's not New Zealand, if you went to the last World Cup and you're looking at the plans of this one and you're thinking this looks better, this looks worse, any opinions you've got, if you want to be on Team New Dice Please, if you don't want to be on New Dice Please, Team New Dice Please, if you want to play in any team other than Team New Dice Please, whatever you've got that you may want to bring.
If you want to have a trial against us and play against us in a pre-tournament game,
whatever it may be, Scott, if people want to get in touch with us, how do they do it?
All of that great stuff above, Chris, and more. And if you'd like a personal review on Malta from Mrs. Coe, or even if you'd like a tour guide to the Playmobil land on Malta from Mr. Hovell, then you can email us, all one word, all lowercase, newdiceplease@gmail.com. That's newdiceplease@gmail.com. And Tom, if people are desperate for more, to listen to us, to watch us, to listen to the banal witterings and observations on life and society in general we have to offer, how can they get more of that in their lives?
Yeah, so you can get us on YouTube, on Blood Bowl Live, where you can see as well as hear us. We also stream our league games there at Aardvarks and Dragons. We are also on the socials, so you can like us and follow us on there, and Instagram and Blue Sky. So yeah, get in touch. Let us know what you think about it.
And we've done this whole podcast, especially because the bid was successful for Malta. We've done this entire podcast in one of Malta's 2 official languages. Look at that. Hey. Isn't that great? Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We have been New Dice Please, and we'll see you next time. Right. Okay. So you put the 2023 rule pack into
Into
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. Okay.
Okay.
Is
And
this
I'll-
like? Oh, is this like the blood? Is this like extra? Is this like after the end? So you do the recordings, then we come back to this.
Yeah,
This is
So
post
you
credit
do the
scene.
music. Yeah, post
Yeah,
credits.
post-credits.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So this is secret extra.
Wow.
Oh, wow. So I put it into ChatGPT, the Alicante 2023 rules, and I asked it to recommend the best team to play at the tournament. Okay.
Right.
So there's 5. Okay. So if you get them right, I'll tell you where they came is like 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5. Okay. So what do you got? Come on, tell me. What do you think's in the top 5?
Right. I think a lot of them are tier 2. I'm gonna say Skaven.
You're right. They are number 2.
Okay.
And the strengths are speed, agility, and access to key players like gutter runners. Best option is recommended is 4 primaries and 1-star player. So Hack Flem is a great option. That's what they recommended.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
So Skaven done. Then I'd go. If I may, Chris, be so bold. Necro.
Number 4, Necromantic Horror. So strength is mobile team with werewolves and reliable regen units. Their best option is 4 primary plus 1-star player. They recommend Wilhelm Chaney.
I think is Norse in that top 5?
No.
Okay. Is there any other tier 2s in that top 5?
No.
Oh,
Dark Elf.
interesting.
Dark Elves are number 3.
Oh,
Strengths, high
okay.
agility, blodgers from start, effective in both offense and defense. And they actually don't recommend a star player, but recommend 4 primary and 1 secondary, witch elves with block and dodge, and blitzers with guard.
Okay.
I'm surprised at that. I think number 3 and Skaven are number 2. Then in that case,
So you're still missing number 1 and number 5,
Okay. Are they both in tier 1?
both in tier 1.
Right. Wood elves, one of them?
Nope.
Ooh.
Shambling.
Yeah, I was wondering shambling.
Correct. Number 1. Shambling Undead is number
Okay.
1. So it's solid front line with mummies, high movement ghouls, and regen heavy roster. Skill distribution guard, block on key players. Best option is 4 primary, 1 secondary. So block or dodge on key players.
All right. Well, I don't think it's going to be humans, and I don't feel like it's going to be orcs, which leaves lizardmen or chaos dwarfs. Is it my beautiful lizard boys?
Nope.
Chaos dwarfs.
Nope.
Humans.
Nope. Orcs.
Really?
They recommended the number 5 of the top competitive picks that ChatGPT recommended. Strength, strong front line, good bashy play style, solid ball carriers. What is this talking about?
Guess
And
they're
it says-
armor 10 bull carriers, aren't they?
yeah, and it says best option is 4 primary, 1 secondary. So guard and block on black orcs and dodge on blitzers.
You think though, Mr. Reader did rather well with his orcs, didn't he? At the Welsh Open, he showed. Ooh, okay.
So there you go. That's what ChatGPT recommend.
Well, how's that for a lovely little bonus game at the end of the podcast then?
There you go.
Anyone who turns it off as soon as they start to hear the outro, you missed out.
Bye.
Bye.